Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Political Job Interview, where I interview candidates running for election. I'm Vincenzo Calla, the host, and today I take on the role as the boss, giving a job interview to today's candidate, Michael Wood. Michael is running for election for Ottawa City Council as a candidate for Ward 9, Knoxdale-Merivale. Thank you, Michael, for your time, and thanks for joining me today.
Thanks so much for having me on, Vincenzo. This is awesome.
Well, it's great to have you here, and I'm glad that you're a part of this municipal election series I'm having. So without further ado, let's get this job interview started. So as with any good job interview, I'm going to start off with an opportunity to learn more about Michael. So the first question is, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and your story?
I would love to. So I've had a very diverse life, right? From 20 to 30, I toured in a rock and roll band as a guitar player. I was discovered, if you will, by Casey Kasem, who is a legendary radio DJ in the United States. And from there, I became a member of the Academy. I went to the Grammy Awards. And unfortunately, my mother became terminally ill in probably 07-ish. And so I stopped touring and I came home to where my parents live in the Knoxdale ward to help my dad look after my mom. And I'll tell you quickly, I was in Memphis on tour, and I decided at that moment when this tour was over, I was going to stop touring. And I was wondering, what would I do when I come back to Ottawa? And I opened my email, and there was an email from Algonquin College saying, "Hey, your name keeps circulating. Would you be interested in teaching this new music business program or music industry program that we're providing in the fall?" And lo and behold, 15 years later, I am still a prof at Algonquin. And I think most people know that I had a large event company, and we did a lot of rentals. We provided a lot of rentals for the major events in the city. So we did Pride, we did Glow Fair, we did all the Canada Days, we did the launch of the LRT. So, my whole life is kind of followed this uneven path, but I've loved every second of it.
Well, and during the pandemic as well, you became quite locally famous, and internationally, you were on a lot of news programs and talked about small business, and you were a very big small business advocate in Ottawa and around the country as well for small businesses during COVID.
I appreciate that. So, I think it's interesting, and then I think people watching may be curious as to how this happened. So, March 2020, I am sitting in my office, and I say to a staff member, I said, "I think this COVID thing's going to be a problem," and they were like, "I don't know," and I said, I think we have a problem." So, I actually called Keith Egley, City Councilor Keith Egley, for Ward 9. And I said, "Keith, is the city going to shut down like we've seen in other countries? Is the province going to shut down? Is the country going to shut down?" Excuse me. And Keith said to me, "You have to start calling your MPs and your MPPs right now." And so my first call, Vincenzo, was down to, at the time, she was the Minister of Infrastructure, Catherine McKenna's office. I was told to send an email. And within an hour, the minister, or former minister, had agreed to meet with me over Zoom. And so we met, and then I met with Mona Fortier. I met with Marie-France Lalonde. All of these politicians and elected officials were like agreeing to meet with me, which this was never the world I thought I was going to be in. And so what I ended up doing was, when I went to the province, because I was dealing with federally elected officials, I went to the province and I said, "I'm going to host a roundtable. There's going to be a lot of small business owners on there." They said, "How many people are going to be joining?" And I said, 100. And they said, "Great." So I had Prabmeet Zakaria, who at the time was the Minister of Small Business. He's now the President of the Treasury Board, agree to meet. So, not to bore everybody with more details, but I met with about 50 officials. I appeared before federal committees, provincial committees, because for me personally, I'd lost 97% gross revenue. I'd laid off my entire staff of 23 full-time jobs. And, the thing is, Vincenzo, is that everybody just was looking to have their voice heard. And this is more or less what brings me to where I'm at today.
And that's a perfect segue into the next question, which is, why have you decided to run for this position?
And going back to what we were just discussing, I will come out publicly and say this: I am not a politician. I am a regular guy. I owned a small business. I work with youth at the college to educate them. The reason I'm running for this is because I found out very quickly people felt they did not have a voice. They didn't know how to contact this minister, this MP, this MPP. And the reason I want to run in the municipal election is to give people a voice. I'm here to help. At the end of the day, that's all I want to do. If COVID-19 taught me anything, is that I'm extremely passionate about helping others. And I think that's what the role of a city councilor should be. I think the role should be to help people in the ward, help them with the challenges that they're facing, and of course, work together with all of the peers to make the city that much better.
You're right on about that, and getting the people the help they need, and that's a great way to do it as a counselor or any elected official. We're going to take a bit of time now to talk about the job and what Michael brings to it. And we've already talked a bit about this, but maybe to continue on the points you were making before, what experience do you bring to this job?
So that's a great question. Again, not being in the political world per se, I never ran for anything before, with the exception of the high school band president back in probably grade 12 or 13. And, what I'm going to bring is empathy, compassion, and kindness. We see a lot of times that civility in the world seems to have vanished. And, what we need from people on both sides, the people running and the people in the ward, is we have to work together and we have to be kind to each other at all times. And, the scenario being for running for this position in particular is I do believe that we have to look at transit, for example, because there's a lot of people that are stuck and they don't know, how to even try and fix the problem. And I work hard. I will tell you this, everybody that knows me will say he probably works harder than anybody probably should. But I'm here to put in the time and work with everybody to make sure that everybody has the best experience in our city possible.
So, to continue on that point, there are a lot of candidates in your ward. It's one of the wards with, I think, one of the most amount of candidates in the city. And I wanted to ask you, what sets you apart from all of the other candidates? So, out of all of them, what sets you apart?
So that's another great question, and I appreciate you asking. The number one thing that sets me apart, I think, from others is I have never run before. I'm not saying, listen, anybody in any ward, Vincenzo, that puts their name in, it should be complimented, should be praised, because it's a big undertaking. And so the one thing I think that's going to set me apart is the fact that, one, I have no political relationships with really any party. I work with all the parties. It came down to the point that I could call the premier's office, I could call the Liberals' office, I could call the NDP, or I could call the Greens. That's just because I'm 100% nonpartisan, and we met all the time, all the parties. And the one thing that I think that will continue to separate is the fact is I'm available all the time. I want to help you at the end of the day, and I will do everything within my power. And I'm not even saying, I know this isn't a political answer. I'm not even saying the others won't. All I'm saying is that this is what I'm bringing to the table. And I think over the last 2.5 years, I've been able to prove to people that I can get others heard without any interference in the background.
Part of serving as an elected official is serving the people who elect you. And you've been talking a lot about that. And I wanted to ask you a few questions about how you do want to serve the people and how you plan on serving the people. So the first question is, what is something that the people you would like to serve need that you would like to get done if elected?
Excuse me. So there's a few things on the table right now, right? So transit has to be looked at as a whole. But if we go back and we even take a look at accessibility, my friend is Michael Lifshitz, and he was the comedian. He's in a wheelchair. We all saw it probably 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, that he couldn't get paratranspo. He couldn't get an accessible taxi to get him home from downtown. And I was speaking with somebody else yesterday about paratranspo, and our population is aging. More and more people may be requiring paratranspo and accessible transportation as we go along. So I'm going to take a look, if elected, at transportation to make sure it's running efficiently, the routes are efficient. But I also have a lot of friends that rely on accessible transportation. I have to make sure in my heart that I know that it is the absolute best it can be for these people. I cannot sit back and read stories of people not being able to access transportation, or various facilities aren't accessible. We're all human, and everybody deserves that basic right.
Well, what is one accomplishment that you've achieved that demonstrates why you would be a good elected official if the people choose you?
Well, I'm going to sum it up in a group. So I think over the past 2.5 years, advocating for people in our community with small business, and other things on the table with the Ontario government, there is a video people can find of Minister Pramit Sarkaria saying it was through meetings with people like Mike Wood, where he said in Queen's Park question period that they partnered with the federal government on the rent program. I know that when the initial PPE platform came out, it was very small. I think you had to have a staff of 2 to 9 people. I'd have to go back and check, but I got it bumped up to at least 19 people on staff where they could get the grant for the PPE. When they were going to be reopening salons and barbershops, one of the things that they were going to do was 5 people. I convinced them that 25% of capacity could work. And, just as we're talking and things start coming back, with the trucker protests, there was a lot of businesses downtown, which is outside of the ward that I live in, that were hurt by this, right? The roads were closed and so on and so forth. And the federal government and Invest Ottawa worked together to come out with a grant. And I applied and I received the grant for many small businesses. I didn't personally receive the grants, but I did the applications for the small businesses, no charge. I just wanted to make sure that they could continue on. So, the scenario being, Vincenzo, is whether you live in Ward 9 or not, I am here to help, here to support. And that's my main platform, is that we're going to help people, we're going to support people, and kindness matters.
So thank you, Michael, so much for joining me today. It was great having you, and I'm sure the viewers have enjoyed hearing what you have to offer to them. Election Day is October 24th, 2022, and if you liked hearing what Michael has to say, and you live in Ward 9, Knoxdale-Merivale, you have the opportunity to vote for him on Election Day. Check with the local election officials for more details. To stay updated, make sure to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at VCProductions25. Check out my website, VincenzoCalla.com. Make sure to like, subscribe, and choose to get notifications here on YouTube. The Political Job Interview is a VCalla production, so until the next video, I'm Vincenzo Calla, signing out.